plan is that because we don't want to harm them, we are going to destroy Hamas infrastructures, Hamas headquarters, Hamas military establishment, and take this phenomena out of Gaza.
Standing by him, Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin, who reaffirmed unwavering American support.
The United States will make sure that Israel has what it needs to defend itself. And Israel has a right to protect its people.
Multiple shipments of U.S. military aid have arrived in Israel, with more expected today. Meantime, Secretary of State Antony Blinken embarked on a tour of Arab countries. This morning in Jordan, he met with King Abdullah II and Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas. Later in Qatar, he spoke with leaders about the hostages taken by Hamas in Saturday's attacks. President Biden spoke today with families of the American hostages, which he addressed this afternoon.
They're going through agony, not knowing what the status of their sons, daughters, husbands, wives, children are. You know, it's gut-wrenching. I assured them my personal commitment to do everything possible to return every missing American to their families.
Around the world, Jewish institutions are on high alert after a former Hamas leader called for a day of rage against Israel. In Beijing, an Israeli embassy employee was stabbed in broad daylight. But across the Muslim world, massive protests. From Turkey to Iran and Yemen, residents took to the streets in support of Palestinians and to condemn the Israeli state. But at the very heart of this conflict in Jerusalem, the city expected to see some of the fiercest violence during Friday prayers today. It was almost business as usual. The young Palestinian men who often clash with security forces here were nowhere to be seen. Here in Jerusalem's Old City, the authorities have put a ban on young Palestinian men entering the contentious Al-Aqsa compound today. Many still tried and were turned away, and clashes have broken out with security forces where one group tried to force their way in. 35-year-old Jerusalem bus driver Tahir Gibran, determined to pray at the mosque he attends every Friday, decided to come and try.
I tried to get in and asking for my ID. He sees I'm from here, and he says you can't get in. Ask him why. I said nicely, you can't get in. One more time, I'll take you next to the wall.
He says since Saturday's horrific Hamas attacks, suspicion is on the rise in the city.
What's scary is tension. So much tension.
The Al-Aqsa compound, one of the holiest sites in Islam, and set amidst some of the holiest Jewish sites, has been a flashpoint for conflict in recent years, and retaliation for the Israel Defense Forces' repeated violent incursions into the site while Muslim worshippers pray is one of the stated goals of Hamas. There were altercations and tear gas was fired by Israeli security forces today as worshippers left the mosque, but with only very young and elderly men inside, the expected clashes were avoided. But just outside in the Arab Wadi Juz neighborhood, clashes did break out as some young men refused to accept the ban. Jerusalem police shut off the neighborhood, firing tear gas and foul-smelling skunk water into residential streets as those residents watched on, unable to get home. A few hours later, calm was restored. But on the winding roads into the occupied West Bank, the fires of rage had been burning since morning. Major reinforcements to IDF checkpoints were brought in, with security forces on high alert, and Palestinian towns and villages locked down, with no way in or out. By mid-afternoon, that rage had exploded. Protests have broken out in Palestinian towns across the West Bank today. We're in front of the city of Ramallah. We can hear behind us tear gas going off, smell the smoke in the air, we can hear sirens, people screaming. Inside, people are protesting, and this is where the Israel Defense Forces have set up a barricade to stop Palestinians leaving the town. As we drive back to Jerusalem, smoke rises from almost every Palestinian town and village. Tensions erupting behind locked doors. Later in the day, the violence follows us. 2 teenage boys were killed in clashes with security forces this evening in the East Jerusalem village of Islamiya. Buses harrowed country as rockets fall and guns fire. The drums of all out sound closer by the minute.
And Layla joins me once again here in Tel Aviv. Good to see you. Let's start with what you didn't see in your reporting today. Many many people here were bracing for much higher levels of violence than we saw here today. What did you hear from people you talked to about why we didn't see that violence here?
Well, we were in Jerusalem, where everyone expected the flashpoint of that violence to be around the Al-Aqsa Mosque. And what happened was that the security forces just imposed a ban on any men between 18 and 40. Some people even over 40 were banned from coming out, and we saw that, and that worked. There was a small group who tried to rush security forces, and they were pushed back, but